Howdy do, everyone. Welcome back to the ranch. Good to have you here today. And yes, today we are inside. And no, it's not because it's raining outside, and it's not because it's too cold or too hot. It's just that today's video is going to require a lot of props. And I know a lot of you folks out there do not like guns. And I would appreciate it if you would hang with me just for a little bit, because this did start out to be a gun video, but it kind of morphed into a Carriker family history or Carriker family heritage video that I think is really interesting. Besides, this particular pistol right here has a very important history itself, and I think you'll enjoy hearing about that. But nevertheless, thanks again for being here, guys. It's good to have you here today. Hope your weekend is going well. What prompted this video about guns is a few weeks ago I was watching a YouTube video by Brandon Herrera. He's a gun guy, and he was talking about how all of these mass shootings that we're seeing today, getting more prevalent are just like we're turning into the old Wild West again. And Brandon said the biggest problem with this is our government can't agree on what to do. One side wants to get rid of all these and would be totally happy if all the guns completely disappeared, and the other side thinks it's corralling all the mentally impaired people because that's who usually starts these mass shootings. But the biggest problem is, unless you could anticipate what mentally ill person is going to snap and start killing people, that side's not going to work. And on the other side, you can't possibly take away all the guns without starting a civil war. So it's basically a go-nowhere situation that looks like it's only getting worse. So like Brandon said, it looks like we're headed for the days of the old Wild West again. And the only way around that is for each of us to be caring. And he even commented, by the time the mass shootings take place and the cops get there, majority of the carnage is already done. So it's up to the citizens to be armed and take care of these things as they happen. So anyway, with that in mind, at that time I went to my gun safe, I opened it up and started looking for pistols to carry that I would carry every day. And I knew something like this would be a lot more likely than something like this, because this thing's so heavy, there's no way I'd carry that every day, every time I left the house. But this little guy, maybe so. But anyway, ramble. I went to my gun safe, I opened it up, and I saw this. And I saw all these 1911 type pistols, and no, they're not all mine. And yes, I do need to get them back to their rightful owners. But I started thinking about it, and I even went out to Matt's house, and he and I made a video out there in his gun safe, in his gun vault, in his gun room. I brought it back home and started trying to put a video together here. And that video that he and I made just really wouldn't fit into what I wanted to do. I'll put that video for those of you who are gun people or people that just really like Matt. I'll put that video. I'll tag it on the end of this one, because it is very interesting in my opinion. But some just strictly anti-gun people may not like it at all, so I'm not going to make you guys sit through it. But I'll tack it on at the end of this video. But nevertheless, looking at these 1911 pistols, as I was pulling out, looking at each one, I started realizing each of them had a story. And the most important gun in this whole collection is this one right here. This was my father's. It's a Colt Combat Commander. It's 45 caliber. And you can see Dad put gold on everything. You know, it wouldn't do just to carry a black and ugly pistol. It had to be a little flamboyant. But nevertheless, this particular pistol has a great history behind it. My dad was a justice of the peace and a city judge in his small town up in North Texas. And late one night, a highway patrolman called my dad at home, and he said, my dad's name was Ole, and he said, Ole, I need you to go up and open up your chambers. He said, we need to arraign a prisoner that I've picked up. And he said, and he is a bad one. And he said, I need you to come down to the station to do that. And he said, do not come unarmed. So my dad said, okay, I never do anyway. So my dad picked up this one and he always had this one in his boot. This is a little 380. But anyway, he went down to the police department. He opened his chambers up for the highway patrolman. Highway patrolman brought this guy in that was shackled and handcuffed. And he said, the highway patrolman said, I need to do my paperwork. And he said, I want you to hold a gun on this man and do not look away from him. And so my dad took out the .45 and he put it on this guy, and he held that pistol there until the highway patrolman was done with his paperwork, and then the highway patrolman took the guy away, and my dad was able to holster his little 1911 once again. My dad called me the next day, and he told me that he thought they had arraigned either the most prolific serial killer in the history of the United States or the most prolific liar. And I said, oh, really? I said, what's this guy's name? And Dad said, Henry Lee Lucas. So anyway, that's the gun that held old Henry Lee at bay while the highway patrol wrote down all the charges. And the rest is history, if you believe Henry Lee. Okay, so that was a story on my dad's pistol. Pretty cool. My dad was a cool guy. This is my favorite pistol. This is pistol number 2 for us today. This is the other thing that Matt said he wanted in his life. He said, I want 2 things from my dad. I want the Camaro, which he's already gotten, and he said, I want Dad's old Colt. And this is Dad's old Colt. This is a pistol I bought about 40 years ago in College Station, and it is a Series 80, and I've done a lot of things to enhance it. It's got an extended beaver tail safety. It has an extended slide release. It has a skeletonized hammer and an extended trigger, and a whole bunch of work done internally. It is a perfect pistol and a cool grip on it too. But anyway, this is my favorite pistol of all. And it's got a couple of good stories with it too. One happened there in College Station. Like I said, I bought this thing 40 years ago, and in College Station we lived in a condo, and there was a guy that was going around late at night and busting into girls' apartments. I don't know if he was a rapist. I don't even remember anymore. But some girls about 2 or 3 apartments down from us, from our condo, called me one night, and they said, can you come down real quick and bring a gun? Somebody's busted into our apartment. And they had taken lipstick and wrote some really nasty stuff on the bathroom mirror in the girls' condo there. And so I grabbed my pistol and I went down there, and they had called the cops, but the cops weren't there yet. So I went through the house and made sure everything was clear, nobody's hiding in the closet or that kind of stuff. And once everything clear, I was walking back to the front door about the time the cops came in, and this older cop came up and he saw me and he goes, who are you? And I said, I'm the neighbor. And he said, let me have your pistol. And I handed it to him, and he popped that out and he stuck it in my pocket, and he handed me my pistol back, and he said, I've got 2 words for you. And I thought, oh, he's going to thank me for clearing the house for him. He's going to say thank you. And I said, yes, sir. And he said, go home. So anyway, that's half of the claim to fame of my beloved 1911 here. The other story happened right here in this house where you and I are at the moment. And like I've told you before, this house was built in 1890. And when we moved into it, it was, the windows were knocked out of it. The wind blew through it. There was a snake we found in a bathtub. Critters had been all over the place. It was moldy. It was a disaster. Just a nasty old farmhouse that was at that time about 100 years old. And I came here. My wife and the kids stayed in Fredericksburg, and I came here and spent a week or so in this house working at my new job before the furniture arrived. I had a small mattress back there in the back room, and that was the only thing in this house. And this house late at night back then with the windows out of it and everything, it just, it was scary as can be. The wind just blew through it. I could hear animals walking around outside, and it sounded like people. I got up probably 2 or 3 times every night with this and a flashlight, and I'd go to that end of the house, checking every closet, go upstairs, check everything up there. And it was a rough week. I did not get much sleep that week. But anyway, that was story number 2 of my very favorite pistol of all time. So there you go. 2 down. Pistol number 3 coming up. Let me see which one we need to do. The next pistol in our lineup is this pistol right here. This is Mark's pistol. This is a Kimber 1911 style pistol. It is called a Raptor. It's also a 45. And Mark bought this pistol when he was in college. He came home one summer and earned a lot of money and went and bought this pistol. And this is a very, very sophisticated pistol. As a matter of fact, when he bought this one, he and I went out shooting. Mark with his new Kimber and me with my favorite Colt. And this pistol shot every bit as well straight from the factory as this one did after all the enhancements I put into it. So this is a really special pistol as far as pistols go. It's just extremely accurate, beautiful pistol. It's really a dream to shoot. But Mark, just like all of us, he ran out of money one time and he sold that pistol. And I remembered the guy. Fortunately, I remembered the guy he sold it to. The guy had really, really wanted the pistol and talked Mark into selling it. And I went to the guy, and the guy was kind enough to sell me Mark's pistol back again. And you know, there's one thing I didn't mention when I hold my dad's pistol or any of these other pistols. I can almost feel Mark's hands when I touch this. When I hold this pistol like this, when I hold my dad's pistol, it's the same thing. There's just something special about guns and guys, I guess. Another funny story about this one right here. Matt and Mark were coming back from college in Matt's Corvette one time, and they had all their stuff just crammed in the back. And highway patrolman pulled Matt over because he didn't have a front license plate on that Corvette. And he said, "You boys have any alcohol in here?" And they said, "No, sir." And he said, "Do you have any drugs in here?" And they go, "No, sir." "Do you have any guns in here?" And they stopped, and kind of choked a little bit. And the cop said, "Are the guns yours?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "How many do y'all have?" And Matt said, "Well, I think 4. And he says, 4 between the two of you?" And Mark goes, I think I've got 5. And the cop said, "Y'all got 9 guns in this Corvette?" But that's Matt and Mark. Mark also gave me this pistol right here. He brought it home one time. It's a little SIG. It's a 380. And it looks all the world to be just like the 1911s. And that's one thing I really liked about it. Anyway, Mark brought it home, and we were out shooting. And I said, "Man, I love that pistol, Mark." And he goes, "Well, then you can have it." And I didn't say, "Oh, you can't give it to me." When somebody says that, like that, they wanted you to have it. And I knew Mark wanted me to have it, and he knew I carried it all the time. So it's a very, very special pistol to me, one that I will have forever. Honestly, I'll have all these forever, but that one's special. Okay, next on the agenda would be Matt's pistols. And this particular pistol right here, as you can tell, it's a government pistol. It's marked. This is started out life as a World War I pistol. It was built in 1918 for the military, and then it went back to the armory after World War I, and they enhanced it to be like the pistols for World War II. And so this started out as a 1911, and it later became a 1911 A1. But anyway, it's a really cool old battle pistol right here. No telling the stories that this pistol could tell. Matt's other 45 is a almost perfect 1950 1911. It's a commercial model, of course, but there is not one scratch on this, and it is blued. You can see it shine right there. It is absolutely a beautiful, beautiful pistol. And if there's stories about Matt pistols right there, more than likely, I probably don't want to know them. Okay, and this is Uncle Floyd's pistol. This is a Colt model 1873. This one was made in the second year of production in 1874. It's 45 caliber, just like all the rest of these pistols I've showed you so far, except it's a completely different cartridge. It's called a 45 long Colt. But anyway, this is the old classic cowboy pistol right here. And this one is marked US right there, and that means that it went as a military pistol. And this particular one was sent to the cavalry, and I know that because all these pistols started out with the barrel 1.5 inches longer than this one is right here. And the guys on horseback said these pistols are too long, so they sent a few thousand of them back to the armory, and they bobbed off 1.5 inches on the barrel. And when they did that, they just took them completely apart. They cut all the barrels, and then they put all the guns completely back together. And they did not keep each individual part separate for each pistol, which meant that when they put them all back together, the serial numbers did not match because they didn't keep them separate. So this particular gun, it's got 5 or 6 different serial numbers on it, and they're all different. But the one you go by is the one on the frame right here, and that tells us this pistol, at least the heart of it, started out in 1874. And it missed getting to go with Colonel Custer to the Little Bighorn by about 400 units. And it was pretty lucky, because if it went to Little Bighorn, it wouldn't be here today. But the way Uncle Floyd came to own this pistol, I've showed this to you in a video before, but for those of you who have not seen it, the doctor who was Uncle Floyd's family's doctor, he bought this in a hardware store for $5. The government dumped a bunch of them on the market in the early 1900s, and he bought this one for $5 in a hardware store, and he kept it under the seat in his buggy. And when he would go out to Uncle Floyd's place where he lived out on the farm, he always had it under the seat, and Uncle Floyd, as a kid, would always ask him if he could shoot his .45. So Dr. McCracken would bring that .45 out, and he'd go in to take care of whoever was sick, and Floyd would be out shooting Dr. McCracken's .45. But later in life, when Dr. McCracken was an old man, in the 1930s, he gave Floyd this pistol. So pretty cool old pistol, pretty cool story. And that's what I mean. This started out to be a gun video, but it's more of a Carriker heritage video. Good old Uncle Floyd, as many of you know, was a pharmacist. And that's his license right there. He got this license in 1937, and it's an interesting story on how he got the license. He left home when he was 17 years old, had 50 cents in his pocket, and he hitchhiked out to Iraan, Texas, out in West Texas, and he took up a job in a pharmacy out there. His job in the pharmacy at the age of 17, he was filling prescriptions, and because he already had 3 years of practice doing so, he started working in Mineral Wells, his hometown, in the pharmacy business when he was 14, and had been filling prescriptions ever since. He went to pharmacy school, which lasted 3 months, and I asked him one time, and I said, you went to 3 months of pharmacy school and they made you a pharmacist? And he looked at me and he kind of smiled and he said, hell, we only had 4 drugs. But anyway, things were a lot different then than they are now. But he and a bunch of guys headed out to Nevada to take the boards. And I don't remember exactly the reason. There was some reciprocity situation, and so he went out there to take the boards with a few other guys. And he didn't have any money at all. In his days at Iraan, he had met a dentist there that was a little bit older than him. Like I said, Floyd was probably, by this time, Floyd was about 22 years old. He had been there for a few years, and he met this dentist that came over to get medications all the time for his patients, and he and Floyd became good friends. And he was about 7 or 8 years older than Floyd, and like I said, Floyd didn't have any money. And the dentist, when he heard Floyd was headed out to go get his pharmacy license, he said, do you have any money? And Floyd said, no, I don't. And he said, what are you going to do for money? And Floyd said, I don't know. I'll find something. I can always find work. And he said, well, I want to give you something. And he handed Floyd a checkbook. And he said, you can write any checks for any amount you need on here. And Floyd did take the checkbook, and he said that I only wrote one check. And I think it was for $100. And he didn't write, that was enough. He lived for the rest of that 3 months on $100. But anyway, when Floyd got home from pharmacy school in 1937, after a grueling 3 months of pharmacy school, he felt indebted to this dentist that he really liked, and he always wanted to do something nice for his dad too. So he bought, and it may be hard for me to show you these guys. He bought this little Remington rifle right here. And this little Remington rifle right here. And he gave one to his daddy, and he gave the other one to Dr. Bailey, the doctor that had given him that checkbook to use in Nevada. And when Floyd's dad died in 1945, my grandmother gave that rifle back to Floyd. And when Dr. Bailey died in the 50s, his wife gave the other one back to Floyd too. So Floyd in turn told me, he said, when Matt and Mark get old enough, I want you to give them these 2 rifles, which I did. I went over to Matt's house this morning and got those 2 rifles just to show them to you. So anyway, one of these rifles went to Mark, the other one went to Matt. Matt now has both of them. One of them will go to Lincoln, and the other one will go to Mark's son, Abe. So that's that heritage thing, man. And like I said, this video started out to be a gun video, but basically has become a family history / family heritage type video. And I didn't expect that. It's just when I started looking at these guns, all these stories just kind of came to life. But heritage, you know, the definition is a person's unique sense of family identity, the values, the traditions, the culture, and the artifacts handed down by previous generations. And that's what we're looking at. All the stories, all the love, fear, you name it. It's an emotional thing. Those stories may have died if we didn't have these. And we're not done yet. There's a lot of good stories left here. Uncle Floyd, one other thing. I've got 2 more of Uncle Floyd's guns here. One other thing I've got. Look at it. This is a Japanese battle rifle that Floyd took off of a dead Japanese soldier on Iwo Jima in 1944. And you don't even want to know the story on that rifle. This pistol right here, Uncle Floyd had a pharmacy. He was a pharmacist. He wound up with 3 pharmacies, but he had one majority of his life called Highland Pharmacy on Westheimer in Houston, Texas. And he lived about 2 blocks back behind it. And he walked to work every morning at 4:30. Early in the morning, late 50s, early 60s, Floyd went to work, and when he went in, he realized the door was unlocked, and he knew he didn't leave it unlocked, so he went in cautiously, and he got the till to put the cash register tills, the money and all, in the cash registers. And about that time, this guy came up behind him with a gun and said, "Give me that money." And Floyd turned around and you know, those old cash registers were big, and he took that till and he just hit that guy as hard as he could in the head and knocked the guy down. And the guy shot Floyd in 2 places in his arm. And Floyd went over to him and hit him several times with that till, knocked the gun out of his hands and everything, and was able to call the cops. And he sat on that guy until the cops got there. And one of the cops said, "I'm glad we got here when you did, Floyd. You almost killed this poor man." But after that, Floyd carried this pistol. And you know, I guess thinking about that might have been later than I thought, because this pistol was made in 1961. And so that robbery thing happened after that. But Floyd carried this pistol. Like I said, he walked 2 blocks at 4:30 in the morning in Houston, downtown Houston, for years, and he kept that with him after that. So anyway, good old Uncle Floyd. The only other pistol I haven't shown you yet out of this collection here, my wife gave me this pistol for Christmas one year, and it looks all the world to be a 45, but if you look at the hole in the end of the barrel, and I do not have a cameraman, and no, I can't shoot you through your TV, computer, or your phone, so I'm going to point these right at you so you can see. This hole over here on this side is tiny. This one over here is big. This is a 45. This is a 22. Everything else about this pistol is identical to a full-size 1911, except it shoots 22 rimfire. It is a very fun pistol to shoot. And like I said, that Pat gave that to me for Christmas, gosh, 40 years ago too. But anyway, really a sweet pistol. But nevertheless, folks, that's a kind of a Carriker history lesson right there, a heritage lesson. We used to get together at family reunions, and the women would all go in the kitchen and start cooking and cackling, man, having a big old time and just loving being together. And the guys would all go watch TV, watch a football game or something. And then before you knew it, there were guns going off out in the pasture, and many of these guns. Oh, I did forget one. Okay. I'm too lazy to edit, so I'm going to tell you about this pistol right here. This one right here, I had two uncles that were in World War II at the same time. And Uncle Floyd, he was in the Pacific Ocean in the Navy on a tugboat, crossed the Pacific Ocean 4 times during the war in a tugboat. And he brought that Japanese rifle home on that tugboat. He also brought home 2 great big burial urns, ceramic burial urns that Japanese people would put their dead in. And he strapped them to the front of that tugboat, but they got in a typhoon and it blew both of those off into the Pacific Ocean. But he did get home with the rifle. My other uncle, my Uncle Carl, was in Europe, and he was a radio operator on the front lines. And Uncle Carl had a 45 1911 exactly like this one, but after he passed away, somebody got it. It was not supposed to get it, but nevertheless, that's unimportant. This is a very important pistol right here. Floyd would talk about World War II and all the fun he had and everything. My Uncle Carl did not talk about anything having to do with the war. I think he had a lot of traumatic experiences, and anytime you ask Uncle Carl where he got this pistol, he would say, somebody gave it to, a sailor gave it to me on the way back home. And then the next time you ask him, he would say, I found it on the ground in Lucerne. I mean, it was just meaning he didn't want to tell you where he got this pistol. So this one has German military marks all over it. It's a 1941 pistol, 9mm, and very sweet pistol to shoot. But you can tell just by the way the blue's all worn off of it. It had a pretty rough go. Magazine, that's wooden on the tip end, on the butt part of the magazine. That's made out of wood. But anyway, very cool. And anyway, I'm sad my dear sweet Uncle Carl had to go through what he had to go through to get back home. At least he had a good souvenir when he got home. Okay, guys, I think that's it. Well, folks, that's about it from out here on the ranch today. Thank you so much for being here. I know this was a weird video, but it's a pretty sentimental thing to me. But if you have stories that relate to your family and firearms that hook them all together, or just interesting stories like the old Henry Lee Lucas pistol right here, share them down in the comments with us if you would. And for the rest of you, read through the comments, because a lot of the people that leave comments are a lot better storytellers than I. Anyway, guys, thanks again for being here. I sure appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you next time. And as always, I want you to always remember I love you. Bye-bye now. So what we have here are 2 1911 45 caliber automatic pistols that were made for basically combat starting out around 1911. And this one was a World War I vintage type pistol. It's called a 1911.
Yeah, so this is the North American Arms. It was made in Canada for World War I. It was a kind of a test run. They made 100 of these. I think it was a gun factory that was already making some kind of guns, and they went in and said, we're just going to make 1911s, but we want to run a test run. And they made 100 of them, and then they ended up canceling the rest of the order. So only 100 of these were made. at the North American Arms Factory. This is the serial number right here. I think it says 93, but it's literally just a 93.
Just a 2-digit number.
And it's on the slide, which is funny because usually you have serial numbers on the frame. And usually it's a big serial number, but it just says 93 stamped into the slide. Super rare because only 100 of them were made, and they were made over 100 years ago. Wow. So there's probably less in existence today.
Oh yeah. I would bet there's very few of them, especially very few that people know what they are.
Yeah, for sure, because it looks just like a regular 1911. These are a couple Colts that look exactly the same. This is a over 100-year-old Colt 1911. This is a newer Colt 1911, but they still look the same.
Yeah.
But mine are worth, these are mine, they're worth $3,000.
Yeah.
These are worth together probably around $400,000 to $500,000.
Yeah. So these are worth almost 100 times more than these pistols right here.
Crazy.
And this one right here is made by the Singer Sewing Machine Company, correct?
Made by a sewing machine company.
And the story behind this, which I think is really, really cool, is when the government saw how perfect they had made these pistols, they discontinued the production by Singer and put Singer onto something that needed more precision, like the Norden bomb sights in the airplanes and all that kind of stuff. So that's really cool too. So how many of these did they make before they stopped?
They made 500 of the Singers. They did a test run. The government did a test run with them as well. They wanted to see if they could make 100 of them a day. And I think they couldn't do 100 guns a day.
Not at this level
because they were making them too nice. But the government saw how nice they were, so they were like, "We want to put you on aircraft parts, things that are more finely machined." So even though there's 5 times as many of these, and they're newer than the North American Arms, these things still take a premium as well, just because they're regarded as like super finely machined 1911s. And there's only maximum 500, but it's been a long time, so likely less than 500 in existence today.
Right. I was going to show as well where the slide meets the frame right here. Look how tight those gaps are. And then in just a regular government military production, look how loose.
That is crazy.
Look how loose those gaps are right there. And that will tell you how well made these pistols are, and secondarily how accurate they are too, because the sights stay aligned with the frame and the barrel and all that. But that's awesome. These are really awesome pistols.
And I thought this was a really awesome one. It's a 1918 Colt. It's made in 1918. But the reason this gun is not worth hundreds of thousands of dollars is because they made hundreds of thousands of these Colts.
Right.
And so you can find them. You can't find Singers in North American Arms.
So
these things are worth a ton because they're so rare.
So you're sending these back to the guy that let you borrow them?
I have to give them back. Yeah, he won't let me keep them, unfortunately. We've had them actually for over a month, but super nice guy. Just let me borrow them and shoot them. I got to take them out, shoot them on the range. He was like, "I've never even shot them. Go for it." And so we shot these, $500,000 worth of guns. It was fun. And
I'm sure your audience took a big deep breath and a gasp when they saw you throw one on the ground, right?
Yeah, totally. It definitely wasn't one of my guns.
No, not at all.
We actually texted that guy beforehand, and we were like, "Hey, you're gonna see a video. It looks like I'm abusing your guns, but we subbed mine in for the joking parts of the video."
Yeah. So you only threw hopefully you didn't throw one of these. Oh man, because I would have died if I saw one of these hit the ground.
I wouldn't have thrown one of those until I saw these, and I was like, "Well, these are worthless."
Yeah, we can buy another one of these any day.
Colts. Blech.
Yeah.
Look how big the gap is in the back. What do we even want this thing for?
Right. All righty. Well, thanks for letting me come out and look at them and drool on them a little bit.
Yeah,
and they're awesome, aren't they?
Now your fingerprints are going to be rusted into the slides of them.
That's for posterity right there.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Very good.
Done?
Thanks.
Sure.
So what you doing there, Al?
Neutering a dog, Dad.
All right. Who's going to learn you?
That's a mistake.